Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let's try that one more time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi.
A lot of words. Okay, I'm just going to request, please, before we start, just if we can get silence at the back. We please can get silence at the back to make it easier for everybody to focus. Please. Jazakumullah khair. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والتين والزيتون وطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون فما يكذبك بعد بالدين أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا مولانا محمد عليه وعلى آله أفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم. My brothers, my sisters, Ibn Abbas said, ask me about any ayah in the Quran. I will tell you where it was revealed and when it was revealed. I will tell you whether it was revealed on a mountain, whether it was revealed on a mountain, or whether it was revealed on low plain, like a low ground. And if I knew someone with better understanding of a single ayah in the Quran, and I could get to that person by a camel or by any means, I would chase them until I get that knowledge from them. When it comes to the Quran, it is the base, it is the constitution, it is the source of all our understanding. And the Sunnah comes, of course, to exemplify and comes to elaborate on and comes to embody the teachings that are in the Quran. And so long as the Quran in our kids' mind and in our youth's mind, so long as the Quran is just there in words and in memory without understanding, we're always going to have problems. The way to strengthen Iman, the way to truly love Allah, the way to truly understand the Deen is to truly understand the Quran. And in the few moments that we'll have together tonight, inshaAllah, I'll give you a few examples of ayat that we recite so often, that we read so often, that we hear so often, and we're going to look at them together, and we're going to try to understand what they actually mean. At the beginning, I recited by the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we all heard, Surah At-Teen. If I were to ask you here, please feel free to raise your hand and answer the question. What does At-Teen refer to in Surah At-Teen? What does it refer to? Yes?
An olive?
The olives. Okay, so teen is olives?
Fig.
Figs? Okay, is olives or figs, Habibi?
Figs.
So figs. So At-Teen, the fig, okay, or the figs. What about Zaytun? Yeah?
Olives.
Olives. What about Tur Sinin?
Mountains.
The mountain of Sinai. What about Al-Balad Al-Amin? وهذا البلد الأمين? Mecca. Okay. So, mashallah, we got some youth answering, we got some older people answering, alhamdulillah. Now let me ask you this. What on earth do figs and olives and a mountain and Mecca have in common? What is this? We're hearing the Quran, we're hearing by the olives, by the figs and the olives, by the sacred mountain of Sinai, by the sacred place of Mecca. But what do all these things have in common? What do they mean? Why are we reading them? What's the point? What's the purpose? Right? When we begin in Surah At-Teen and we're reading or listening to it behind the Imam, or we're reading it in the Mus'haf, what does it mean? Right? It's important for us to ask these questions and to have a deeper understanding of the Quran, especially when it comes to the way that the Quran interacts with the ayat in the Quran interact with each other, a holistic, overall understanding. If you look at Ibn Abbas, who's an authority on the Quran and one of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he said, the teen at the beginning refers to Jabal al-Teen. It refers to a whole region, and that is the region of Iraq. It refers to a region, the region of Iraq. Listen to this carefully. Until this day, the Kurds who live in Iraq, they call the Jabal al-Judi, as mentioned in the Quran, they call it Jabal al-Teen, the mountain of figs. And Jabal al-Judi or Jabal al-Teen is the mountain that Nuh's ark landed on after the floods. And that is where Nuh received revelation. Iraq, Mesopotamia, is the region where Ibrahim interacted with revelation. Nuh received revelation. As Zaytun refers to the region of the Sham, Syria, Jordan, Palestine, that region of the Sham, because of the common occurrence and availability of figs, of olives there, it is referred to as the region of the olives. And the region of the olives is where? Who received the revelation? Isa received the revelation. All of Banu Israel received the revelation in the region of the olives except one, that is Yunus alayhi salam. He received it elsewhere. And Mount Sinin or Jabal Sinin or Tur of Sinai or the Mount of Sinai is in Egypt. And Egypt is the place where Musa received the revelation. And Al-Balad al-Amin, Mecca, is the place where the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ received the revelation. So in the beginning of Surah At-Teen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us, just like we an Ummah of Muhammad ﷺ received the revelation through the Prophet Muhammad in Mecca, so were nations before us in Iraq, in Syria, in Egypt, in all of those regions, they received the revelation too. Revelation is from one source from Allah, given to different people at different times to bring them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And all of those, in the different languages, in the different shara'i' or different laws that came to the differences in the people, they all come from one source. And that is the beginning of Surah At-Teen. So when we're reading, when we're listening to Surah At-Teen, we're supposed to think, subhanallah, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues to give us guidance through revelation. He created us and He knows us better than we know ourselves, and He's given us the tools and the information that we need to get back and link with Him and to establish a strong relationship with Him, and also discover who we are and hold on to who we are as human beings. Now listen to this. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. If you look at the English translation, it'll say we, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, referred to in the plural, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about Himself in the plural in the Quran to establish respect and authority and admiration. Just like in certain languages, in the French language, when you're referring to, when you're speaking about, like even in English language, you say we the government, we the people. When you're representing or speaking on behalf of something or a group that is important, that has weight, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses that plural. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says we created the human being in the best of forms, in the best of states. There's a really funny and a really nice story about this actually. And this happened in Medina. Listen to this carefully. There was a man and a woman, two young people, who got married. They were really, really happy together. And the first night of their marriage, they went for a walk. And as they're going for a walk in Medina, the man looks at his wife and sees how beautiful she is. Remember, they're married, it's their first night, so they're very, very excited and happy, and there's so much joy and love. So he looks at his wife, and the moon is right behind her. So he looks at his wife's face, looks at the moon, looks at his wife, looks at the moon, looks at his wife's face, looks at the moon, and he tells her, he gets too excited, as some people do, and he tells her, by Allah, you are more beautiful than the moon. Then she says, oh, stop it, all that stuff. So she's flattered, she's happy, and he's complimenting her, but then he takes it too far, he gets too excited. So he says, and the Arab used to do this often, and we do this till this day. He says, by Allah, I make it compulsory upon myself to divorce you if the moon is better looking than you. So he says, I make it compulsory upon myself to divorce you once, twice, 3 times if the moon is more beautiful than you. So now he's basically, that's the 3 times, and in the madhab, as the fuqaha say, if you say 3 times in once, of course in the majority of the madhab and the opinions, there are exceptions, it counts as a final divorce. So he says he makes it compulsory upon himself to divorce her if the moon is better looking. She looks at him and she's like, are you crazy? Why you got a really beautiful night for it? Of course the moon is better looking than me. What's wrong with you? So she tells him, I'm no longer halal for you. Don't touch me. You're not my husband. Until you go to the masjid in Medina and ask the shuyukh or the khalifa there. And this is in the time of Abu Ja'far al-Mansur. So she tells him, you better go drag yourself to the masjid and ask the imam for a fatwa to prove that the moon is better, or I'm better looking than the moon, or else we can't be together. So he's like, oh, what a way to, you know. So he drags himself, goes to the masjid, and he comes and he asks Abu Ja'far, Shaykh, please help me out. I'm newly married, it's my first night. I got too excited. I told my wife, I swear by Allah, I make it compulsory upon myself to divorce you if the moon is, or if the moon is better looking than you. So Abu Ja'far al-Mansur was so amazed by this. He was so fascinated. He found it so humorous that he called all the other shuyukh, all the imams, and like, come listen to this funny story. And so all of the shuyukh, young and old, came and they sat together. And as they're sitting together, Abu Ja'far al-Mansur tells this guy, say it again, say what happened again. And he says, here's what happened, I got too excited, I told my wife, by Allah, I make it compulsory upon myself 3 times to divorce you if the moon is better looking than you. So all the old shuyukh, they're like, man, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, you expect your wife to be better looking than the moon? Obviously that's not the case, it's a divorce, it's final, end of discussion. All of the old senior shuyukh said that, it's done, you're divorced, go home, find yourself another wife, cry yourself, khalas, it's done. Then there was another young guy sitting in the audience. He was a student of Al-Imam Abu Hanifa. And this young guy, he tells Abu Ja'far, after a period of silence, actually no, there's no need for the divorce, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already made it clear, and there's already evidence in the Quran for this. So he tells him, what is the evidence? He says, وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ وَطُورِ سِينِينَ وَهَذَا الْبَلَدِ الْأَمِينَ لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. By Allah, etc., at the beginning, we created the human being in the best of states. Therefore, you as a human being, you are created in the best form, in the best structure, in the best features, with the best, again, physical characteristics and attributes. Therefore, the human being, as per the Quranic words, is the best creation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has presented, or has the best form. So he tells him, go back, you're okay, there's no divorce, it's not an issue, because your wife is better looking than the moon. So imagine when he goes home and he tells his wife, you guys can do this tonight if you like, right? You know what? The shuyukh all together came to the consensus that you indeed are more better looking or beautiful than the moon. And this again shows you the way that the ayat in the Quran are interacted with, and people interact with the ayat in the Quran. And how the Quran can be used, again an ayat in the Quran can be used as evidence in situations and in cases like this. Now the question is, if the human being is created in the best of form and in the best of characters and with the best attributes, then how come we see humans in the worst of states and humans doing some of the most evil things ever? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the ayah right after, ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ. And this human being has the capacity to sink low and become not just low, but the lowest of the low. Imagine, the human being is created with the potential to be the best, with the best possible attributes, best possible spirit, best possible soul, best possible interactions with others, but every one of us here in this room has the capacity to be the worst of the worst, or the worst of the worst. Imagine that. So what then determines whether a human being becomes the best or the worst? Listen to this carefully. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, right, that we as human beings can reach a point so low that shaitan begins to learn from us. Can you imagine shaitan following somebody and saying, man, you're so evil, I want to learn from you. You're so bad, teach me how bad. Like, how are you so bad? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, الذي آتيناه آياتنا فانسلخ منها فأتبعه الشيطان فكان من الغاوين. And tell them, recite to them, remind them of an individual who received the miracles, the ayat, the signs of Allah, and moved far away from it. So he became so evil and so corrupt that he basically dissociated himself completely from revelation, and hence shaitan began to follow him to learn from the evils of his ways. Meaning that human beings, when they stay away from revelation, remember the beginning of Surah 15, revelation, 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 in those 4 regions we talked about. So Allah tells us then that if we stay away from revelation that has come to us, we sink and we have the capacity to be the worst of the worst. But there's a beautiful hadith as well, and in this there's a beautiful lesson for all of us. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ once was approached by a companion, and this companion told him, Ya Rasulullah, why is it that when we're with you, we're so close to Allah, we feel so happy, our hearts are open, we're on a different level. And the minute we leave and go far away and leave the masjid and leave your company, we begin to have different personalities and we begin to, again, exhibit different behaviors. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, to comfort them, he said, Sa'ah wa sa'ah, an hour here and an hour there. It's normal that your behavior will be affected by the environment that you're in. No issue. But he told them, by Allah, if you were to hold on tight to what I have given you, you would reach a point where you would shake hands with the angels. Listen to this carefully. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, if you hold on to the revelation that has come to you, the Quran and its embodiment, the Sunnah, then you have the capacity to become people that would shake hands with the angels, metaphorically. You know what the concept of shaking hands with the devil? When someone shakes hands with the devil, what does that mean? They're so bad, they're committing so much crime, so much evil, so much hate, that they're shaking hands with the devil. But here the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says, you have the capacity to become so close to Allah, so close to Allah, that you shake hands with the angels. And this is each and every one of us. This is what we should all be striving and hoping for. So remember, we have the capacity to be the best, and we have the capacity to be the worst. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, and gives us examples in the Quran of people that reach submission. So much submission and dedication to Allah that shaitan gave up on them. And we have examples from the seerah. Umar ibn Khattab, he would go one way and shaitan would go the other way. He reached a point where whatever he believed and wanted and liked in his heart was exactly or conformed exactly to the revelation that came from above. He was on the same page as the Quran and the revelation that comes. Do you understand what that means when you're on the same page? Umar would tell the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and he would tell the companions about certain things. Like he would want to ban alcohol, way before the Quran came to ban it. And the Quran came to confirm Umar's beliefs and feelings and inclinations. Not because Umar was right in the Quran, not because Umar was impacting the Quran, affecting the Quran, but because he was again very close and in love with the words of Allah, that his heart inclined towards the good that is mentioned and written in the Quran. My brother, my sister, let me give you another example. If you look at Surah Al-Duha, let's listen to Surah Al-Duha together, and let's look at certain ayat that we all know but we take for granted. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث. Let's look at a few ayat in Surah Al-Duha. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَوَجَدَكَ أَلَمْ يَجِدْكَ يَتِيمًا فَآوَى وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًا فَهَدَى وَوَجَدَكَ عَائِلًا فَأَغْنَى. If you look at the English translation, it'll say, Allah found you an orphan and gave you shelter, gave you a refuge, gave you a home, brought you close. And He found you lost and guided you. And He found you poor and gave you wealth. Those three ayat, there's so much context behind them. If you were to reflect upon them, wallahi, they would make your heart melt. Listen to this carefully. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a child, he lost his parents. He lost his father before he was born, and he lost his mother as an infant or as a young child. When his father passed away, the only thing that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ inherited, two things. He inherited a small camel, a female camel, and he inherited a slave girl, a young slave girl that, remember, before the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's time and during his time before the revelation, slavery was okay. Slavery was prominent and very much available and something that was accepted at the time. Unjust and unfair, and Islam came to slowly bring an end to it, but it was available. So the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did not have much. As a child, he quickly worked and quickly learned, and he spent time with, again, Banu Sa'd, learning the Arabic language, and he started attending or tending to sheep as a shepherd. He made money, then he started traveling and doing business, and slowly he became recognized for his trustworthiness, for his honesty. His incredible character was so immense, listen to this carefully, that Khadija, a woman who's much older than him, one of the richest people in Mecca, and the richest woman in Mecca, a businesswoman, in a society where women were buried alive, she made a name for herself and a reputation for herself and had net worth and money that made every other Qurayshi person respect her, even though they were men and didn't have that much respect for women at the time. But she earned the respect of everybody in that society. And she herself humbles herself and she sends a marriage proposal to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Can you imagine how much, again, how he was as a human being? And that's before the revelation. Just his nature and his personality. And she comes to him the day that we get married. And she tells him, oh my cousin, because he was her cousin. She tells him, oh my cousin, my money, my wealth, my everything, my property, it's all yours. Do with it as you will, because I trust you more than I trust myself, and I know you will do with this more and better than I can ever do with it. Can you imagine that woman, that kind of woman in that society, gives everything she's worked hard for to her husband Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Allah reminds him, you were an orphan, and Allah gave you a home, a shelter. And you were poor, and Allah gave you wealth through Khadija, your wife. And wealth, remember, is not just monetary wealth. Who was Khadija? Khadija was an amazing individual, an amazing wife for him. She gave him that comfort and that grounding and that peace and that tranquility and that time so he could now go and start meditating, start spending time in the caves, asking Allah for guidance. And so he started seeing the dreams, the visions. And he saw in a vision that he was meditating in a very specific ghar, the ghar of Hira. Now why was he meditating in the ghar of Hira? Why? Why Ghar Hira specifically? If you look into the seerah, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was meditating in different caves, but this one he saw in his vision. Remember, prophets have visions, we have dreams. So he saw in that vision that he was meditating there, praying to Allah there. Why? Because that is the cave with direct view of the Kaaba, with no obstacle in between, no idol in between, no rock in between that was falsely worshipped. All the other caves had view of the Kaaba, but the view of the Kaaba was blocked in part by some or a couple of idols. So Allah allowed him to have the direct connection, direct view of the Kaaba, elevating himself physically above everything else so that his heart could also be elevated and spiritually uplifted. And as he sees all of this, he's now turning to Allah saying, Ya Rabb, guide me. Not because he's lost in deen, not because his aqidah or belief system was ever wrong or confused. No, he never bowed to an idol. He never showed anything that was incorrect. He never uttered a word of injustice and falsehood or even an insult or a ridiculous comment. He was known for an amazing character. So why is Allah saying He found you lost and guided you? Because when He sees all of the problems in society and the community, all of the issues that are going on, He recognizes that they're wrong, but He doesn't know how to fix them. He's turning to Allah, Ya Allah, guide me to take the things that You've given me, to take this belief that You've given me, and this tranquility that You've given me, and to translate it into things that are tangible that people can see, so that they can too believe in what I believe in. So they can learn from this guidance, so they can give up all of this injustice and all of these evil practices that are in the Jahiliyyah. So Allah sends him the Quran. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. And the Quran comes to interact with him day by day to guide not just him, but guide the whole community around him. So when you're reading the ayat in Surah Al-Duha, has Allah not found you lost and guided you? That is referring to Him so confused as to how to give guidance and share with people. When you're hearing, has Allah not found you poor and gave you wealth? That's referring to Him being given the gift of Khadija, through which she invested in his da'wah, in his work, so that he could have that dedication and free time to learn and to teach and to have that connection with Allah. Think about that, my brother, my sister. So many of us here would love to have just time that we can dedicate to be close to Allah and to learn. So many of us would say, man, I wish I can stay in the masjid and have all the books and access to all of this content and read and learn and learn. But why can't you? Because at the end of the day, you got bills to pay, you got people to feed, you got responsibilities and dependents that need you. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that financial stability and independence so that he can then focus on receiving that guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in this we learn something very important. Now I want to wrap up with this, inshaAllah. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees from you true faith, true submission, true love to Him, Allah will guide you every step of the way. And Allah will give you everything you need to learn. You just have to have the passion for it. You have to have the dedication. You got to turn to Him every single night and ask and ask and ask and humble yourself for Him. And by Allah, He will clarify any confusion that you have or any doubt in your mind. My brother, my sister, and secondly, We need to understand the Quran, not just the words and memorize them. It's so easy to memorize the Quran. We have millions of children, some as young as 3 years old, who have the whole Quran committed to memory. But is that the way the companions looked at the Quran, as something that's supposed to be memorized? No. They did not memorize the Quran. Some of Abu Bakr, Umar, did not memorize Al-Baqarah until very late. It took them 10 years to memorize Surah Al-Baqarah, 9 years to memorize Surah, just one surah. And the companions used to say, we lived in a time where we focused less on the memorization and more on the implementation. And now there are people who live to focus on the memorization and don't even understand a single word of the Quran. And I'm not just talking about the literal definition, I'm talking about the context. I'm talking about looking at an ayah of the Quran and asking, when was this revealed? Where was it revealed? How was it received? How was it implemented? What did the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ do or say that explains this ayah? And how did the companions take this ayah and translate it in their everyday lives? That's what it means to be truly people of the Quran. And I leave you with this, my brother, my sister. We say we're Muslims, we say we believe in Allah, we say we believe in His Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. But do we really truly mean it? When it comes to our everyday lives, the laws that we follow, the decisions that we make, the values that we endorse, the things that we support, our preferences, our likes, our dislikes, are they all in sync with what the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ brought to us? Or have we reached the point where we're just Muslims on paper? Yeah, we're Muslims, I'm Muslim. Yeah, I'm Muslim. My father's Muhammad, my daughter's Fatima. We have Muslim names, we come to the Masjid every Friday, we do things here and there. Are we truly Muslim? You know, I'll leave you with this inshallah. There's nothing wrong with wanting to understand, because Allah gave us the intellect and the mind. And we have to use the intellect to investigate and explore and learn and discover the world. And we by nature are curious beings, and Allah put that curiosity in us so that we can find Him and we can find in the world things that lead us to Him. However, if we make it conditional before we act and implement something that Allah tells us to do, if we make it conditional that we must understand it, then we're not worshipping Allah, we're worshipping our intellect. Let me make that clear to you. When you read something in the Quran and you believe that the Quran is the word of Allah, and the Quran tells you do something, do X or do Y or do this, and you say, yeah, it's from the Quran, I know it's from the Quran, but I don't understand it, and I need to understand it first before I do it, then you're not worshipping Allah, you're worshipping your intellect. There's a filter, your brain, and only that which makes sense to your little human brain, your limited rationality, when you execute and implement, then you're not worshipping Allah. And that's not who Ibrahim was. That's not who Muhammad ﷺ was. That's not who they were. They were Muslims, submitted their will completely to Allah. However, there's nothing wrong then with saying, Ya Allah, I know this is from you, I know and I believe it's from you, and I know that you teach me to do this, and you command me to do this, therefore I will do it, but guide me while doing it, to understand the reason, to understand the rationale behind it, or to understand the depth behind it, so that when I'm doing it with heart, and with feeling, and with presence and awareness, so that I'm able to get more reward doing it. So I'm telling you here tonight, we need to look into the Quran and understand deeply, not because we need the understanding to implement what Allah teaches us, no, but because understanding things on a deeper level will enhance our ability to love Allah, and by enhancing our ability to love Allah, it'll be clearer to us what is necessary to implement those things that will bring closer His love and allow us to love Him closer. We need to be people of intellect. We need to understand. And we need to continually turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us more and more and more understanding and awareness. The only dua in the Quran where Allah tells us to ask for more of something in this dunya, وَقُلْ رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا. Allah didn't tell us and ask for more wealth. No, the Prophet Muhammad said, Ya Allah, I'm happy with whatever I have. Don't, and I don't need any of it. He didn't say, give me more power. The Prophet Muhammad did not like the power. He only used the power for the sake of Allah and to again affect the world around him in a positive way. But he didn't want anything for himself. The only thing he was told by Allah to ask for more and more and more and more of knowledge. وَقُلْ رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا. We will never be able to truly love Allah until we know Allah. And we cannot know Allah without knowing the Quran, because the Quran is the direct word of Allah, the timeless word of Allah, the timeless word of Allah. He's given it to us as a miracle, as a sign, to allow our hearts to love Him more and more and to know Him more and more. And I guarantee you, by Allah, if you take the initiative and the time and invest it in knowing the Quran, not only will your iman increase, but your overall awareness of life and the way that you perceive things will change. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that the Quran comes تَفْصِيلًا لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ. It comes, sometimes, this is a beautiful ayah, sometimes you'll look at the world and you'll say, okay, how is the Quran going to come to explain every little part of life? The Quran can't possibly explain every part of life. There aren't enough words in the Quran to explain everything in life. Of course, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, He tells us that the Quran comes to give depth to everything that we see. When you have again weak eyesight, and you're looking at the world, but you don't even know something is wrong because you don't know how you're supposed to look. You never know because you've never seen what it's supposed to look like. Then you go to the doctor, you put those glasses on, or you put those contact lenses on, and then boom, it hits you. Wow, subhanallah, this is what I'm missing on? I didn't